guys, I hope you're keeping really well. I wanted to just send you a little bit of a feedback video on the yin classes that I've received so far. First of all, thank you very much for sending them to me. I've thoroughly enjoyed practicing them, and it's been really interesting to read also about your experience and what you've taken and how you're going to apply what you've taken to your classes going forward. So, a couple of things that I just wanted to talk about was the first part is the importance of demonstrating the pose. So this has to be you in your most relaxed version of the pose as well. So I'll give you an example with butterfly. So generally before we come into a pose, maybe at the beginning of a class you'll be sat in meditation for a substantial amount of time. And the hips and the knees can be feeling it. So we want to offer windshield wipers before we move into the shape. Okay, not always, but sometimes it's quite nice to do that. So just let them take their legs nice and wide, so the width of their mat. Hands can come back or they can drop down onto the forearms. And then gently rotating in and out. So what we're looking for in windshield wipers is an internal rotation of the top leg, an external rotation of the opposite. Okay, so we're looking for this movement through the thighs, or predominantly through the femur bone, in the hip joint. Yeah, it's this internal and external rotation. Okay, so you would offer that, and then I'm going to give you the demonstration for butterfly. So, we're going to come into butterfly pose. I invite you to bring the soles of your feet together. The soles of the feet need to be a little bit away from the groin so that the legs form a triangle shape. If you notice that your pelvis is tilting back the way, you're beginning to round into your lower back, I highly recommend you sit on a pillow or a block, or a couple of blocks. And this is just to help tilt the pelvis in the opposite direction. So we go more into an anterior tilt of the pelvis, which will enable us to fold a little bit further forward. If you have issues with your knees, you can place props just at the back of the knees. Just at the back of the thighs, just to support the inner groins and their release. Very slowly, you're going to gently start to ease your way forward, coming into an appropriate depth for you. You can let your head relax. And if you need to, you can offer yourself support for the upper part of the body. You could maybe use a bolster. So if you'd all like to find your way into butterfly, please do. Okay, so this is me demonstrating the full extent of the pose, and that's really what we're looking for when we're teaching. We want to demonstrate ourselves in a relaxed version of the pose because students are looking at us for guidance. So they're looking at our limbs, our legs, our head, the way we fold forward. So it's really important, even if you do not have the kind of what is regarded as an ideal shape, you are demonstrating the pose to the best of your ability and letting yourself relax into it, and students will use that as a guide, okay, and you're there to be that guide. So first of all, demonstrating the pose, yeah, and offering alternatives, prop usage, before the student even gets into the shape, all right? Then you want to discuss where they're going to feel the pose. So what's the area that you're targeting? So for example, in a forward fold, and I'll use the same example in a butterfly shape, predominantly we're going to feel the stretch in the inner groins and the lower back, okay? Because we're not coming into any extension or straight spine. We're coming into a deep flexion of the spine. So we're going to feel this tension tension build up around the sacrum, around the lower back. You might feel it as well on the outside of the hips, as well as the inner groins. Okay? So you want to be able to say that to your students. So this is where you're going to feel tension, and this is where you're possibly going to feel compression. So you want to give those. Okay? Then you want to talk about depth. So how deep the student goes is really dependent upon them, their bodies, how they feel that day, whether they have drunk enough water and they're hydrated enough in their body, just the state of their mental body, how they feel within themselves, is all variable, yeah, all variable. So we talk about appropriate depth, or the Goldilocks position, finding our sweet spot, okay? The spot where we feel this tension, maybe a build-up of compression, but it's a tension that we're able to sustain. The breath isn't exhaustive, the breath is steady and it's quiet, and sometimes if we're really deeply relaxed into a shape, almost inaudible, okay? So that's what we're looking for, is we're looking to guide our students to that appropriate depth. Now, when we think about the demonstration aspect of demonstrating the pose, we need to be very conscious of our voice. If we turn our heads away from the camera or away from the class, we have to project our voice louder. The same is the case if we forward fold and we're drawing in towards ourselves, our voice is projecting down the way. So we have to project our voice a little bit louder than what we would do if we were facing them. So thinking about that, but also thinking about clear and very concise instruction. So we have these beautiful words: unfurl, unfold, melt, luxuriate, relax, release, let go. All of these beautiful, beautiful words and language that we can use. But first of all, the main part of the teaching that we're looking to get across is the pose itself. The pose, the shape, where they're going to feel it, and then we can pull in some of that language to help students fall into that shape with time. Okay? Now, it's important when a student then, or the students then come into the shape, that we are able to hold back a little bit, resist the urge to talk, and to talk a lot, and to fill the whole of the time up that they're in that shape with words and language and direction. We have to allow space, yeah? A little bit like when you're listening to music, what makes music beautiful is the space between the chords, is the space between the chords. It's the space that makes music, right? If I strum an A chord and then go to a C chord, yeah, there's a little bit of a time where there's no noise, or the noise is kind of finding this kind of sweet still point. It's not a consistent movement of music and lots of different chords together. So we have to think about that when we practice, when we teach. We want to enable our students to find the space within themselves to discover how they feel physically in the body, and how they feel mentally in the body, and how they feel emotionally, and to be able to watch out for any shifts that occur, because generally the shifts will occur in silence. Yeah? So this is another thing I wanted to get across, is the importance of being still and being quiet. Now, if as a teacher you're struggling to be still and to be quiet within yourself, and you find yourself wanting to fill the space, okay, let yourself sit back, bring yourself into a seat. You can keep your eyes open so your students completely know that you're there and you're fully present. But just really focus on your breath. So take 6, 7 or 8 full deep breaths until you find that center of yourself that is quiet too. Because when you're quiet, your students will feel that. It will resonate out and they will feel that they are allowed as well to be quiet. And this is when the body begins to unfurl and unfold itself. That fascial tissue begins to release. And what generally will happen is the body will go through a deep sigh. Yeah, it will be a very, very deep feeling within the self that you can only become aware of in quiet. So, a little quiet when you're teaching. The other part of the practice I wanted to talk about was exiting the pose. So it's very important how we exit. We don't just want to get up and then go straight to the other side. We can do that in some poses, but definitely not all of them. We'll talk more about that in the second weekend. So when we are going to come out of a pose, we want to I like to generally do that by inviting them to take 3 or 4 breaths before they exit. This helps them become aware that they're about to exit the shape. Okay? So, for example, I'll use butterfly again, and I've come forward. Maybe not everyone goes that far forward. Taking 3 deep breaths. Letting the breath fill up the whole of the back of the body. Letting the exhale release any further tension. And as you move towards your final breath, gently beginning to press into your hands, ease your way up to your seat. Sit there for a moment. Let the body recalibrate. And then slowly tuck the pelvis under to release the hips. Hands to the backs of the thighs, draw the knees up. Taking the feet as wide as your mat, bring your hands back behind you and gently take your legs into windshield wipers. You can keep the eyes closed, breathe and move mindfully. Now when you're ready, just slowly walking your hands back up, and we're going to come into whatever pose you're going to come into next. Alright? So, just to reiterate, demonstrate, important. Offer alternatives, prop usage. Your prop usage has been great, so thank you for that. Keep that going, okay? If in doubt, prop, okay? So, demonstrate. Then we want to allow the student to find their appropriate pose after we've informed them about tension and compression and where we want them to feel the pose. Okay? And then we go to that perfect or sweet Goldilocks position. And then a little bit quiet. Of course, if you love to offer stories, if you have any stories that you want to talk about or anything in particular that you've set as an intention, for example, if you have used ahimsa from the Yoga Sutras, the act of non-harming, then this is a really good time to be able to talk about that intention, but again, still allowing for time where there's no talking and there's space. Alright? I hope this helps you. I very much look forward to receiving your practices if you haven't sent them to me already, along with your essays. If you have any questions, please email me. I don't always respond straight away. I have a lot of privates and other classes and things happening as well. So if I don't respond straight away, please have a little patience with me. I will respond. And if I haven't responded after about 3 or 4 days, send me a little nudge email, because it might be what happens with Gmail. Sometimes I receive so many messages that I don't see. I'll miss a message because it's been on the second page. So I apologise if that is the case. So please just send me a wee nudge. If another thing you can do is please use the yin space on the Facebook page, the group Facebook. Post up. Talk about your experience of yin, your experiences of teaching, the things you're struggling with, and the things you're really enjoying about the practice. The best teachers are each other. You're learning from each other and helping each other to grow as teachers. And that's a really important relationship to build and to sustain with time. So yeah, please get talking. Other than that, I very much look forward to see you in a couple of weeks' time. Again, if you have any questions, message me. Namaste. I look forward to see you soon. Enjoy. Bye.